Have you ever been listening to someone or, maybe reading something and you just catch this subtle shift?
What kind of shift?
Like a hint of doubt, maybe, or a really strong sense of certainty, even just possibility, and it all comes down to one tiny word.
Yeah. It's like there's a hidden layer in the language itself.
Exactly. It's like deciphering a secret code. And
Mm,
today, that's what we're doing. We're pulling back the curtain on modal verbs in English, unlocking their power.
right. And they really are powerful.
Now, I get it. The word grammar, it can sometimes make people switch off a bit.
Sure, it has that reputation.
But trust me, this isn't about dusty old rules or memorizing charts. This is about understanding how these little words are actually essential tools.
Absolutely. Indispensable, really.
They shape how we express ourselves every single day, whether it's just, chatting with a friend or in a big meeting or even writing something important.
They add all the nuance.
So today, we're diving deep into how modal verbs handle nuance, certainty, possibility, all that good stuff. And we're using insights from a great source, Mastering Modals, Ability, Possibility, and Certainty.
A really solid resource.
Our goal here is to pull out the most practical, maybe even surprising bits so you can really use these verbs effectively.
Yeah, what's fascinating, I think, is how these seemingly small words can just completely flip the meaning of a sentence, the intent behind it.
Totally changes it.
They let us go beyond just stating facts. We can add layers of meaning talking about what someone can do, what might happen, what must be true based on the evidence.
Right. It's that based on the evidence part that's key sometimes.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to equip you with the insights, the understanding to wield these verbs effectively. Make your English more precise, more natural.
More sophisticated, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And help you catch those subtle meanings when you're reading or listening. We're even going to look at a real-life medical mystery to see how language shapes how we see things, how certain we feel.
Okay, I'm intrigued by the medical mystery. Let's jump in. So the source sets up this scenario. Imagine you're kind of listening in on two doctors. They're discussing a patient.
Right.
But hang on, before we get to them, picture this newspaper headline, The Morning Herald, and it just says, "Does anyone know who this man is?"
Ooh, yeah, that immediately grabs you, doesn't it?
It really does. What kind of medical situation leads to that headline? How does that connect to the doctor's conversation?
Well, it's a really gripping way to start. The headline, it basically tells you the patient has amnesia. He's been found, but he has zero memory of who he is.
Wow, okay.
So these doctors, Joe and Deborah, they're trying to figure things out. Who is he? What's his condition now? What's the outlook?
A real puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source presents this through a series of statements about the patient, which then get corrected as they find out more or make stronger deductions.
Ah, okay. So we see the process.
Precisely. And it's in those corrections, those shifts in understanding, that we really see the power of modal verbs. Each word is like a little signpost showing the doctor's level of certainty or, their speculation.
Got it. So let's walk through them, see these modals in action.
Let's do it. Because each one really highlights a different angle on how we use these words, especially in a high-stakes situation like this.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay, first statement. The patient could remember all his personal details. Simple enough, but nope, that turns out to be false.
Okay. So what's the correction?
The correction is he couldn't remember his personal details. Straight away, couldn't. Is expressing past inability. Clear cut. He wasn't able to do it then.
No gray area there. Just
Right.
wasn't possible for him.
Exactly. Now, next one. The patient definitely came from Yorkshire. Again, sounds certain, but it's false.
Right. So maybe an accent clue, but not definitive.
Precisely. The correction is he could have come from Yorkshire. See that shift? Could have. We've moved from certainty to past possibility.
Okay, so it's a hypothesis, maybe based on an accent, like you said, or something else, but not a fact.
Exactly. It leaves the door open for other possibilities. It's speculation.
Makes sense. What's next?
Number 3. The patient could speak French and Italian. And this one, it's actually true.
Ah. So he had some skills despite the amnesia.
Right. But notice this could. It's different from could have come. This could describes a past general ability, a skill he possessed generally before whatever happened.
So not possibility, but capacity. Got it.
Exactly. Now, one of the doctor's thoughts, Joe thinks that the patient might have been running away from something, and this is marked as true.
Okay, might have been. That sounds like speculation again.
It is. It's a past progressive possibility. Joe's thinking about something potentially ongoing in the past that led to this situation. It's a theory, Plausible, but not confirmed. Might have been.
Interesting. Okay.
Then another Joe's thoughts. Joe thinks that the patient was definitely unmarried. False again.
Okay, so what's the correction?
Joe thinks he could have been married. That could have, again, past possibility. Joe doesn't know, but he's considering it. Maybe saw a faint ring mark,
Right, or just a hunch, but not definite.
Not definite at all. Now, this one's about his progress. The patient has been unable to make contact with anyone he knows. Also false.
Good news then.
Seems so. The correction is, he's been able to find his parents. This introduces has been able to.
Okay, has been able to. How's that different from just could?
Good question. Has been able to suggests ability over a period leading up to now, often implying success or achievement. It's not just general capacity like could, it's that he succeeded in doing this over time.
Okay. Achievement over time. Makes sense.
Now, this next one is really crucial, a big contrast. Original statement. Deborah thinks that the patient can't have hit his head. That's false.
Okay, so what does she think?
Her actual deduction based on evidence is she thinks that he must have hit his head.
Wow, okay. Can have versus must have. That's a huge difference.
Huge. Can't have means strong impossibility. The evidence makes it extremely unlikely. But must have shows strong certainty, a firm deduction based on solid evidence. Maybe a bruise, maybe scan results. She's highly confident.
Right. Not just guessing, inferring strongly.
Precisely. And finally, the prognosis. Deborah thinks that the patient will never recover his memory. Also false.
Okay, so there's hope.
Yes. Her actual thought is she thinks he could make a total recovery. This could look to the future. Future possibility.
Not a guarantee, but it's on the table?
Exactly. It offers hope without making a definite promise.
Okay, that medical case really lays it out, doesn't it? How language shifts with certainty. So all those words could, couldn't, might, be able to, must, can't. How do we start organizing them? It feels like they fall into natural groups.
They absolutely do. And thinking about them in categories is a really helpful way to get a handle on them. It gives you that mental map.
Right. So first up, we clearly have words for ability. Things like could, couldn't, be able to. They tell us about capacity, skill, like he could speak French. That was about his skill.
Perfect. That's the ability bucket.
Then there's certainty and impossibility. How sure we are, or how sure we aren't, about something.
Yeah, the strong conviction words.
We saw must for strong certainty. He must have hit his head. That was a confident deduction.
Based on evidence, yeah.
And can't for strong impossibility, like if the evidence ruled something out completely, he can't have been married.
Exactly. The extremes of the scale.
And the third category seems to be possibility, where things are uncertain.
Right. The middle ground.
Words like could again, but used differently, and might. Like, he might have been running away, Joe's speculation. Or he could have come from Yorkshire. Possible, but not sure.
That's it. Ability, certainty, impossibility, and possibility. Thinking in those terms really clarifies their function.
It does. It helps see they each have a specific job to do.
And that leads us nicely to the core idea. Modal verbs, fundamentally, are auxiliary verbs, helper verbs. They add this crucial extra layer of meaning about ability or possibility or necessity. Super versatile.
Helper verbs. I like that.
But, and this is a big, but for learners, they have some very strict grammatical rules. Once you get these down, though, you avoid a lot of common errors. It really helps your fluency. It's like knowing how to handle a precision tool.
Okay, lay the rules on us. What are the must-knows?
Rule number 1, absolutely key. Modals are always followed by the infinitive without to.
Infinitive without to.
Yeah.
Just the base form of the verb, like speak, be, do.
Exactly, the bare infinitive. So you say he could speak French, not he could to speak or he could speak. Modal, then base verb, directly after.
Got it. Modal plus base verb, no to. That seems simple enough, but probably easy to forget.
It's a very common slip-up. Nailing that one makes a big difference. Rule number 2, their form never changes. Doesn't matter if it's I, you, she, they. Notice on the end for third person.
Ah, okay, so not like he speaks versus I speak. It's always he can speak, I can speak.
Precisely. And you don't use do or did to make questions or negatives with modals. You just invert them or add not. So, can you speak French? Not, do you can speak French? Or, could you swim? Not, did you could swim?
Right, so they handle questions and negatives themselves.
They do, which in a way makes them simply. No conjugation worries. Just remember, modal plus base verb, always the same form. Getting these basics right builds a really solid foundation.
Okay, foundation laid. Let's zoom in on that first category then. Modals for ability, what we can and can't do. You mentioned the main players are can, could, be able to, and manage to,
That's right.
and how they work across different tenses.
Yeah.
That's where the nuances really start popping up, right?
This is where it gets interesting and where learners often need a bit more clarity.
So let's start with the present tense. We've got can, can't, be able to, manage to.
Mm-hmm.
And can or can't seem the most common for just general present ability, like can you remember much? Meaning, are you able to?
Exactly. Quick, natural, very common in conversation for general ability now.
Okay. Now, shifting to the past tense. We use could, couldn't, be able to, manage to. And you said this is where it gets subtle.
It really does. The distinction here is super important for sounding natural.
So for general past ability, something you just knew how to do over time, could or couldn't is the way to go.
That's generally the most natural choice. Think back to the patient. He could speak French. General past skill. He couldn't remember his name. General past lack of ability.
Right, but then there's the specific situation, the one-off achievement. This is the tricky bit.
This is the big one that trips people up. If you're talking about succeeding in doing something on one specific occasion in the past, especially in a positive sentence, you have to use wasn't able to, not could.
Okay, so not could for a specific success. Why not?
Because could implies the general capacity was there, but doesn't necessarily confirm the specific successful action. Was able to confirms you actually did it on that occasion.
Ah, so back to the doctors. The patient could generally speak French, but the police, on one specific occasion...
They were able to find this out. They succeeded in that specific instance. If you said the police could find out, it sounds weaker, like maybe they had the ability but didn't necessarily do it right then.
Wow, okay. That is subtle, but makes a huge difference in meaning. Specific success was to be able to.
You got it. However, for specific inability in the past, couldn't is perfectly fine and very common. He couldn't remember who he was. That works for both general and specific inability.
Okay, that's a relief. So the restriction is mainly on positive, specific past achievements.
Exactly. Nail that difference and you sound much more fluent.
What about other tenses, like perfect and future?
That's simpler. You always use be able to or manage to. Never can or could in perfect or future forms related to ability.
Okay, so no, he can find his family. It has to be.
He's been able to find his family. Perfect tense uses be able to.
And for the future, not next year he can join.
Nope. Next year, he will be able to join. Future ability takes will be able to.
Got it. So be able to is the go-to for perfect and future ability. And what about manage to? When does that come in?
Manage to adds this extra flavor of difficulty or effort. You use it when you succeeded at something, but it wasn't easy. It took some doing.
Ah, okay. So it highlights the achievement against odds.
Precisely. Like, after hours of trying, I finally managed to fix the printer. It implies struggle and eventual success, more emphatic than just, I was able to fix it.
Right. Adds that sense of triumph.
Exactly.
Okay, these distinctions are really useful, especially that could versus was able to one.
It's definitely a key point. That difference really marks out more advanced, nuanced use of English.
So to help everyone listening really get a feel for this, should we try a few examples from the source, sort of test our modal muscles?
Yeah, great idea. Let's walk through some scenarios and figure out the best fit. Think about why one works better than another.
Okay, first one. He's a concert pianist and he can manage us to play all Beethoven's sonatas. What do we think?
Well, here, actually both are possible. Can works fine for general ability. He has the skill.
Right, standard ability.
But manages to could also work if you want to really emphasize what a huge accomplishment playing all of them is. The difficulty.
Okay, so context or emphasis matters there. Next, when I lived in a small town, I was able to could walk almost everywhere.
Again, both grammatically okay, but could probably feels a bit more natural here. It's describing a general past situation, a routine ability, not a specific single achievement of walking somewhere.
Makes sense. General past habit, could.
Usually, yeah. Now this one, they worked all night and could manage to finish the report just in time.
Ah, this feels like that specific achievement one. They worked all night. Implies difficulty.
Exactly. So managed to is the stronger choice here. It highlights that they succeeded in finishing it, despite the effort, right at the deadline. Could finish doesn't quite capture that successful completion against the clock.
Right. Managed to signal success after effort. Got it. How about this? The protesters couldn't persuade the president.
Here, both work pretty well. Couldn't simply states the inability They lacked the power or effectiveness.
Okay.
Didn't manage to add that little bit more emphasis on the failed effort. They tried, maybe hard, but didn't succeed. So a slight difference in focus, but both are correct.
Okay. Future tense now. Next year, will be able to join the club.
Definitely will be able to for future ability. Can might imply permission here. She can join. She's allowed to. But for stating the future fact of her ability or eligibility, will be able to is the clear winner.
Right. Future ability will be able to.
Now, a different type. In my country, it can is able to get very cold in the winter.
The weather doesn't really have ability.
Exactly. So can is the right choice, but here it means sometimes happens.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, a characteristic of the climate sometimes.
Yeah.
Be able to just sounds weird here.
That other meaning of can. Good catch. Okay, last one. I was nearly late. Bus didn't come, but luckily I could manage to get a taxi.
What do you think? Difficulty, specific situation.
Feels like managed to. Getting a taxi when the bus fails sounds like overcoming a hurdle.
Spot on. Managed to really captures that success in a difficult, specific situation. You didn't just have the general ability to get a taxi. You succeeded in getting one when you needed it.
These examples really help clarify things. It's about the specific context every time.
It absolutely is. Mastering these nuances is what makes your English sound, well, less like textbook examples and more like natural fluency. It's about feeling the right word for the moment.
Yeah, feeling the language. I like that. So for someone listening, what's maybe the most common mistake you hear with these ability models? The could versus was able to one.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest giveaway. Hearing something like, yesterday I could finish the project, when they clearly mean they succeeded after effort, I was able to finish or I managed to finish.
Yeah.
Getting that specific achievement distinction right is a big step up in fluency.
That's a super helpful tip. Okay, so we've covered can for ability, but what else can do? You mentioned that other meaning sometimes happens. Are there others?
Yes, absolutely. The source points out two main other uses besides ability.
Okay, the first one is that sometimes meaning, like your weather example, it can get cold. Or the source's example, people can do funny things when they've experienced something terrible.
Right. It's not saying they always do or that they have the skill to do funny things. It just means it sometimes happens that people do funny things. It's for general tendencies or occasional occurrences. Really useful, often overlooked.
Yeah, I can see that being very useful for making general observations without sounding too absolute. What's the other main use?
The one most people learn pretty early on, permission.
Ah, right. Asking for and giving permission.
Exactly. Simple stuff like, can I borrow the car? And the reply, yes, you can borrow it. Straightforward permission.
So ability sometimes happens, permission. Can is doing a lot of work.
It really is. Which just underscores why context is absolutely everything with modals. You always have to ask, what job is this can doing here?
Good advice. Okay, let's shift gears then. Moving beyond ability to that whole spectrum of possibility and certainty, this feels like where modals get really powerful for interpretation, for decoding evidence.
Oh, absolutely. This is where we use modals like must, may, might, could, couldn't, can't to talk about how likely we think something is based on what we know or believe.
Right, and you said the choice depends on the strength of the evidence.
Entirely. Think of it like a scale, from almost certain down to almost impossible.
Okay, so at the top, for very likely, strong evidence. That's must.
That's must, like Dr. Deborah concluding, he must have hit his head. It's not a wild guess, it's a logical deduction based on compelling signs. High confidence.
Right. The evidence points strongly that way. What about the middle ground? Just possible.
That's where we find might, may, and could. And here's a key point. These three essentially express the same degree of possibility.
Really? So no difference in likelihood between he might remember, he may remember, and he could remember?
Not really, no. Maybe tiny stylistic nuances that make him feel a touch more formal sometimes, but in terms of probability, they're all signaling it's possible.
Okay, that simplifies things. Might, may, could, possible. Good to know. And the other end? Very unlikely or impossible.
That's can't and couldn't. Like, the police realized he couldn't be Canadian. The evidence strongly contradicted it.
So can't and couldn't express that strong sense of impossibility based on evidence.
Exactly. And couldn't often relates to past impossibility, while can't is more general or present. But the level of certainty, very low, is the same.
Now, you mentioned a potential trap here, something about may not or might not versus couldn't.
Yes. This is crucial. It catches so many people out. Couldn't, like can't, means something is highly unlikely or impossible based on evidence, but may not or might not simply mean it is possible that it is not true or it might not happen.
Ah, okay, so may not just expresses uncertainty, while couldn't expresses near impossibility.
Precisely. Think about the supermarket example. The supermarket might not be open today because it's a holiday, it's possible it's closed. You wouldn't say it couldn't be open unless, it burned down or there was zero chance of it opening.
Right. Couldn't be open sounds way too strong if it's just a maybe.
Exactly. Getting that distinction right is vital for expressing the correct level of doubt or certainty. Avoids a lot of miscommunication.
Definitely a key takeaway there. Okay, so we have the spectrum. How do we express these ideas across different times, present, past, future?
The structures change, right?
They do. The basic modal stays the same, but what follows it changes depending on the time frame.
So for present possibility, things happening or true now, what's the structure?
It's usually modal plus infinitive without to, like, he may remember things now. Or for strong negative certainty about now, it can't be easy living like that. Modal plus base verb for a current state.
And if something is possibly in progress right now, then you add be plus ing. So modal plus be plus ing. If the doctors see the family looking distressed, they must be having a hard time. Strong deduction about an ongoing present situation.
Or my phone example. She might be talking on the phone right now.
Perfect. Might plus be plus talking. Possibility about an action in progress now.
Okay. What about the past, speculating about things that already happened?
For past events or states, the structure is typically modal plus have plus past participle.
Ah, the have plus past participle structure.
Okay, so he must have hit his head. Strong certainty about a past event. He could have had a wife. Possibility about a past situation. He can't have been married. Strong impossibility about a past state.
That modal plus have plus past participle is super useful for talking about history or any past uncertainty.
Incredibly useful. And if you're talking about something possibly in progress in the past,
Let me guess. Modal plus have been plus ing?
you got it. Like Joe's speculation. He might have been trying to run away. Possible ongoing action in the past.
Okay, that makes sense. Finally, the future. Uncertain future events.
For future possibility, we mainly use may not, might not, and could not, followed by the infinitive without to.
Like Deborah's prognosis, he could make a total recovery one day.
Exactly. Simple future possibility.
And if we're talking about something possibly happening or in progress in the future,
Same pattern. Modal plus be plus ing. I might be meeting John later. Indicates a possible future arrangement or ongoing action at a future time.
okay, brilliant. Having those structures clear for present, past, and future really helps slot the right modal into the right place.
Absolutely. It's about grabbing the right grammatical tool for the job you want it to do.
So let's practice linking evidence to the right modal again, maybe using some of those grammar exercises from the source. Really hammer home that connection.
Good plan. Let's try matching the evidence to the conclusion. Ready?
Yep, let's go.
Evidence. He has a British passport. Conclusion.
Ah, strong evidence. So he must be British.
Perfect. Must for strong deduction. Okay,
Yeah.
evidence. I just saw him in the corridor talking to a student. What about the teacher being sick?
Well, if I just saw him, he can't be off sick. Strong impossibility based on seeing it.
Exactly. Can't be. Okay, advice. Take warm clothes, just in case. What about Delhi in December?
Just in case suggests possibility, not certainty, and it's a general thing. So it can be cold, meaning
Aye.
sometimes.
Nicely reasoned. Using can for sometimes happens. Okay, past evidence. He wasn't home when I called at 7. Explanation.
Lots of possibilities. So maybe John might have been working late, past possibility.
Might have been. Perfect. Strong evidence. He has shares in the most successful company ever. Conclusion.
That sounds pretty conclusive. He must be a millionaire. Strong inference again.
Right. Conditional statement. It depends if I finish my essay. What about the lecture?
Depends means it's not certain. So I may come. Possibility.
Excellent. Evidence. Not many people pass the exam. What about the exam itself?
Low pass rate implies difficulty. So the exam must have been very difficult. Strong inference about the past.
Spot on. Last one. We will have to give him directions. Implication about John.
Suggests he doesn't know the way. Uncertainty about his knowledge. John might not know how to get here. Future possibility uncertainty, not couldn't.
Brilliant. You've nailed the connection between evidence and modal choice. Now let's apply this to that fascinating Egyptian mummy case, Jedmat Senk. History is full of needing modals.
Right, because the facts are often missing, so we have to infer.
Exactly. So The source says it's likely they were rather unusual as a couple. How do we phrase that strong likelihood with a past modal?
Strong likelihood past.
They must have been unusual.
Perfect. Must have been. Now, it is possible that their jobs provided income. How do we express that past possibility?
May have provided, or might have provided, or could have provided.
All three work perfectly.
They might.
Could have provided.
Right.
Excellent. Same for it is possible that they grew crops.
They may, might, could have grown crops. Past possibility again. You got it. Now, speculating about her feelings, it is possible she was anxious.
She may, might, could have been anxious. Past possibility about her state.
Right. And if it is highly likely that she worried about her health.
Highly likely, strong inference.
Yeah.
Past. She must have worried.
Exactly. Must have worried. And finally, her fame happening in a way that was impossible for her to imagine.
Impossible. Past. A way that she could not have imagined. Or maybe even cannot have imagined.
Both work well there. Could not have imagined fits the past impossibility perfectly. See how modals let us navigate history and uncertainty.
Yeah, it's incredible. They let us make these educated guesses and express exactly how confident we are. It's not just for everyday chat. It's vital for discussing complex ideas.
Absolutely. Which brings us neatly to writing.
Right. So what does this all mean for your writing, especially, academic stuff or trying to persuade someone professionally?
Well, modals are absolutely crucial here, mainly because they help you soften your message.
Soften. How so?
They help you express opinions or interpretations as opinions rather than stating them as proven facts. This is key for credibility. It shows you're thinking critically, not just making bold, unsupported claims.
Ah, so it makes you sound less dogmatic, more reasonable.
Exactly. May is super common for this in academic writing. And can, meaning sometimes, is also very useful. It's about presenting well-reasoned arguments, not absolute truths.
Okay, let's see an example. The source compares student work with teacher feedback, right?
Yeah, these are really clear. Student writes, people are unkind about their colleagues, but it is simply because they are feeling insecure at work.
Sounds very absolute. It is simply because.
Right. The teacher rightly asks, how do you know this? It's presented as fact.
So what's the softened version?
Teacher suggests, people can be unkind about their colleagues, but it may simply be because they are feeling insecure at work.
Ah, can be. Sometimes happens, and maybe, possible reason. Huge difference.
Isn't it? It goes from a questionable assertion to a nuanced, plausible observation. Much more academic, much more persuasive, because it acknowledges uncertainty.
Okay, give me the other example. Student writing about cars.
Student. Banning cars with high fuel consumption is a good idea, as it will result in less pollution. Again, very strong. It's a good idea, will result.
Yeah, sounds like settled fact. Teacher comments.
This is a very strong opinion.
And the improved version.
Banning cars with high fuel consumption may be a good idea, as it could result in less pollution.
Maybe. Could result. Again, introducing possibility and softening the claim. Makes it sound like a considered proposal, not a decree.
Exactly. It makes the argument more sophisticated, less open to immediate challenge, because you're not overstating your case. You're acknowledging it's an opinion, a possibility.
This is such a valuable skill for anyone writing essays, reports, emails, anywhere you need to be persuasive, but also credible.
It really is. Shall we try applying this softening technique to that essay excerpt about television's effect on children? It's a classic topic where opinions need careful phrasing.
Yeah, let's do it. Walk us through it.
Okay, the essay says, some people believe that television is harmful. How can we soften that start?
Maybe change is harmful to can be harmful, suggests potential, not definite harm.
Perfect. Television can be harmful. Next, saying that it influences behavior.
Change influences to may influence or can influence. Again, potential or occasional influence, not guaranteed.
Exactly. Make an influence. Good. Then the stronger claim. Watching violence on television encourages violent behavior.
Ooh, that needs softening. Can encourage or may encourage. It's not true for every child.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Can encourage acknowledges a potential link, not absolute cause and effect. Okay, then. This is true in cases of children.
Change is true to may be true. Possibility again.
Good. And the contrast. But it isn't true of all children. How to make that stronger impossibility more nuanced.
We used can't for strong impossibility before, so maybe. But it can't be true of all children, meaning it's highly unlikely to apply universally.
Excellent. Can't be true works perfectly there. It's a strong logical point,
Right.
but phrased as impossibility rather than just stating it isn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Bad language on television encourages the same.
Soften encourages to chemi encourage.
Yep. Potential influence. And finally, the conclusion hopes something will overcome any risks.
Change will overcome, to may overcome, expresses hope or possibility, not a certainty.
Fantastic. You see how adding those modals transforms the tone. It makes the arguments more balanced, more thoughtful.
It really does. It's not about being weak. It's about being precise and acknowledging complexity.
Exactly. And that raises an important point for anyone reading or writing. Using modals this way shows critical thinking, shows respect for other views, and actually makes your arguments stronger by making them more defensible. It's sophisticated communication.
Definitely a skill worth practicing. So we focus heavily on modal verbs themselves. But are there other ways to express these same ideas, for variety or maybe a different tone?
Yes, absolutely. The source points out a couple of key alternatives, expanding your expressive toolkit, as you say.
Okay, what's the first one?
Using adverbs. Simple adverbs like certainly, probably, possibly, perhaps, maybe. They could do a similar job to modals.
Ah, okay. So instead of he must have been attacked, you could use an adverb.
Exactly. You could say he'd probably been attacked. The adverb probably carries that sense of high likelihood, similar to must have. It just offers a different grammatical structure, different rhythm.
Right. Good for varying sentence structure. What's the other alternative?
Using impersonal constructions. Things starting with it is.
Like it is possible or it is likely?
Precisely. It is plus be plus certain likely probable impossible, often followed by to plus infinitive or a that clause. These can express ability, probability, possibility, often sounding a bit more formal or objective.
Okay, give me an example for ability instead of you can program your computer.
You could say, it is possible to program your computer.
Right.
Same core meaning ability, but a more impersonal, maybe more technical sounding structure.
Got it. And for possibility, instead of the train might be late.
You could use, it is possible that the train will be late. Again, same idea, different structure, maybe slightly more formal.
Interesting. So modals are concise, but these alternatives offer variety and potentially a different tone.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is that having these options, modals, adverbs, impersonal structures, allows you to choose the best way to express your meaning in any given context. It enriches your communication, makes it more flexible, more sophisticated. Don't be afraid to mix and match.
Great advice. So what does this all mean for you, our listener, as we wrap up? We've covered a huge amount today.
We really have.
From that intriguing medical mystery right through the basic rules, the specifics of ability with could versus was able to, the other jobs of can, the whole spectrum of possibility and certainty with must, may, might, could, can't.
How they work in different tenses.
Their vital role in softening opinions in writing, and even these alternative ways to express the same ideas.
Phew. It's been a deep dive, all right.
It has. But the key takeaways, the real benefits of getting comfortable with modals, are hopefully clear now. You gain so much precision.
Yeah, expressing ability, possibility, certainty accurately.
And that skill of softening opinions, making your arguments more persuasive, more nuanced in both speaking and writing.
Crucial skills.
We really hope this deep dive has given you a practical shortcut to being well-informed about this vital part of English, moving beyond just knowing the words to actually using them effectively.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's just amazing how much power these little words have to shape meaning, isn't it? Which kind of raises a final important question.
Go on.
Think about how often you encounter modals, maybe without even consciously noticing, in the news, in reports, just in conversation. How subtly they might be influencing your perception of how certain something is or how doubtful.
Yeah. Shaping our view without us realizing.
Exactly. So how might actively recognizing these cues, understanding what that must or might or can't is really doing, how might that change the way you interpret information, how you form your own conclusions?
That's a really provocative thought, being more aware of the linguistic levers being pulled.
It is. So the challenge for you, listening now, is to keep that curiosity going. Start actively listening for modals. Notice them. Think about why that modal was chosen.
And try using them more consciously yourself.
Absolutely. Try using them to be more precise, more nuanced in your own English. Refine your own expressions. It's an ongoing process, but incredibly rewarding.
Fantastic advice. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep diving deep.